Morning Central to 5 on the floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm Ethan Skolnick. I've got Jonathan Ramlakan above me. I've got Brady Hawk next to him. Greg Sylvander next to him. You can follow them at 3-Piece Combo. Brady Hawk 305 and Greg Sylvander, respectively. The only thing I know how to do is memorize Twitter handles. All right, let's get right to it. Are we allowed to say Super Bowl? We're not allowed to say Super Bowl. I don't know what we're allowed to say. It's big game Sunday here, Chiefs and Bucks, but it's also Heat and Knicks. The Knicks are hot. Actually just beat the Blazers. They're making a run at Derrick Rose for reasons I can't understand, except I guess Tibbs misses him, and which, again, doesn't make sense to me for either Derrick Rose or them. But the Heat have a 1 o'clock game today. No Goran Dragic, did not make the trip. My anticipation, let's get to you on this first, Greg. My anticipation is that Kendrick Nunn gets the start today. You don't want to say that you're going to give Tyler Hero reps off the bench to get comfortable and play the 2 and then force him into the starting lineup. Is there any other option, though? Could it be Vincent, or is just Kendrick Nunn?
I think that there's no use in overthinking it, that it's Kendrick Nunn and keeping Hero in the bench role. You kind of have Nunn also in a position where he gets to maybe find better rhythm, because he's going to be needed over the course of the next 2 weeks. So I think it's Kendrick Nunn. Don't overthink it.
By the way, don't overthink what you're drinking today. It's Biscayne Bay Brew, Super Bowl, anywhere else you go. Check it out. If you haven't got to Publix yet, get some of it. I'll bring some of it out here before the end of the show. Forgot to do that, but I got plenty in the fridge for today. All right, Brady, let's take a look at what they look like with Kendrick Nunn. I mean, if you're an outsider, I feel like if you're not a Heat fan and you're just looking at the numbers lately for Kendrick Nunn, you're like, wow, he's the same player he was last year. Why is anybody complaining about that? He's basically averaging 18 points a game, shooting close to 50% from the floor. Has he made, you just did an article for the website, has he made improvements that maybe will allow this to be sustainable for him?
Yeah, and you mentioned sustainability. I think that's the reason why some people are uncertain about what he's done. I mentioned about the past stretch when they had, when he was playing, he was probably their most consistent player. And then they got healthy and he was the odd man out. So then here it is again, he has the opportunity. I think he definitely has made some minor improvements. I think he gets into his shot selections much quicker. I think that was an issue last season, that there was times where you didn't know if he was going to, pull up or go into a floater or make the pass. And now he's making, those decisions much quicker, and it's helping him score the ball more efficiently. I think just improvements like that. And, he's mentioned every time after a game that he says just playing time. That's what helps him. And I think that could be it. I think the more he plays, the more he gets, in a starting lineup today. He fits really well with Butler. Last game, that was some of those surprising things, that they play well off each other. And I think that's why it makes the most sense to, start him. And I think even start him moving forward, because obviously you don't want Goran playing this many minutes when he's healthy. So then you can go back to maybe what you did last season and have Goran and Tyler off the bench and, trust Kendrick in that type of role.
Well, people get concerned, Jonathan, about Goran and Tyler playing too much together because of the defensive stuff. But offensively, they were tremendous together last year. Again, looking at Kendrick, I feel like he gets a bad rap in a lot of situations here, because you mentioned playing with Butler, Brady. He hasn't really done that this year. And last year, that's all he did, but he wasn't playing with Jimmy at all. How do you see this sort of new lineup taking shape, Jonathan?
I think it'll be something that'll help the Heat, especially offensively, because now you have two guys coming off the bench that can get their own bucket, in Tyler Hero and Goran Dragic. And it's not so... You know who's going to be taking care of the ball in the starting lineup. It's going to be primarily Bam and Jimmy. And then secondarily, as just a kind of a scorer, you're going to have Kendrick Nunn. I think with Tyler Hero in that lineup, we kind of had too many places to go. And there was a little bit of confusion of what was happening offensively. So we didn't know if Tyler was going to create for himself or create for somebody else. Is Bam is going to do a dribble handoff or go for a jumper? And same thing with Jimmy, if he's going to try to take the head of this horse right immediately, or just kind of feel the game out as he goes along. So I think it'll be a good fit to have Kendrick Nunn coming back. Over the last 2 weeks, he's averaging about 15 points a game. And he's somebody that was kind of missing in that starting lineup as just a scorer. You know what I mean? Because Bam can do things for other people. Jimmy can do things for other people. Even Kelly can do things for other people a little bit. But just a guy that can come out and score, Kendrick Nunn can be that guy that fills that hole, especially as a team that we're struggling offensively right now.
You know what's interesting about that? People were complaining about Kendrick being selfish. And to be honest with you, what that starting lineup needs at times is a little selfish. Because Bam and Jimmy are not. And so that becomes problematic. And Tyler was caught in between. Should he pass? Should he shoot? Kendrick's gonna score. Like
Yeah,
that
there's no question.
Goes through Tyler's head, like they're trying to make me a point guard. That doesn't go through Kendrick's head, even though he was the point guard in Summer League last year. Let's talk about the Knicks a little bit. If the Heat are going to kind of get out of this place they're in, some of these teams that have been better than them so far this season have to come back to the pack a little bit. You were not expecting Cleveland. You were not expecting Charlotte necessarily. You were not expecting New York to be, maybe Atlanta you were, but those three in particular, you weren't expecting them to be competitive or close to 500. And now we're starting to see what I mentioned a week ago, which is that some of those teams see an opportunity and they're going to start adding players. So now you may have the Knicks adding Derrick Rose. Maybe Charlotte adds a piece. Maybe Cleveland doesn't sell off. These, Greg, are important games. Like, you have to bury these teams now because otherwise you're looking at fighting with them for a play-in spot.
It's so true. Not only do they have to take care of these games, but they're going to have to get a couple that they're not supposed to get, like particularly on the West Coast trip when we look ahead. But like this New York game, they're a really good rebounding team, and Miami is not. I think the last I checked, hold on, I'll pull it up quickly.
They're fourth in rebounding.
Fourth in the league in rebounding, and we're dead last. So that's not a great thing. They take care of the ball. They're sixth in the league in turnovers. We're dead last. So those are the kinds of stuff that they are going to. Julius Randle has been awesome this year. You know, like there's definitely some concerns with the 2-game set, and you can't afford any more losses. I mean, even though you're only a handful of games out of a 4 seed or a 5 seed, and that may be how it is all year. Eventually, you're not going to be able to continue to say that, and you're going to run out of time. So you got to take care of these, and then you got to get a couple on the road.
I hate to say it, but this reminds me a little of the Panthers so many years where it's like, oh, they're only this many points out. They're only this many points out.
And the season's
but
over.
Like 6 teams ahead of them, and it's like you start to jump one. Okay, you got to jump another. And then those teams are playing each other. So you get a loss from one, but a win from the other. That's going to be problematic. Brady, I want to talk about the Jimmy Bam connection since the two of them have been playing together. Are you satisfied with how aggressive Bam has been playing with Jimmy?
I'm not satisfied with, the jumper after what we saw in the Brooklyn, 2-game set. I expected him to, continue that. But I am satisfied with what you're seeing, 11 free throws in the first quarter the other night. I think that's the part of his game that I was talking about, even when the jumper was hitting. I think that's what elevates his game. If he can get, attack the basket constantly and, it end up being 11 times to the free throw line in one quarter, that changes everything. But I do think there's, like we were mentioning before, that starting lineup, with Hero and everybody, there's a bit of uncertainty there where you didn't know what was going to happen on any given possession. With, Butler, he's going to be a pass first guy. And right now, Bam's a pass first guy, even though he probably should be a little bit more selfish at times. So I do think as we progress, I think Bam will realize that more and more. Maybe you get a game against a bad team that he can, develop that part of his game a little bit more and get that more trust. But as of right now, I think they're still going to continue what they're doing and just going to rely on others.
With no Bradley and no Harkless and no Myers, obviously, there's no help coming. Like I feel like in a certain way, like this group with Kendrick Nunn starting has to it's us. That's it. I mean, they're really, the offseason didn't help them with the exception of Precious. I think we just got to accept that at this point. We can talk about how Avery Bradley can be effective for them, but he's had an injury history. So like this shouldn't be a big surprise. I don't think you're expecting anything from Harkless. It has to be here. But Jonathan, let's say that they don't pull this off. And Myers Leonard here on my shirt. Let's say that they don't pull this off. Let's say they get swept by the Knicks. At that point, it's blow up time.
I mean, yeah, you gotta go all in for the star that's there, but you also can't over rush these moves. You know what I mean? We have a lot of assets right now. Hero, Nunn, KZ, Precious, a couple of first-round picks.
Is KZ an asset? I don't know.
You spent 3 second-round picks on him.
Asset, but it's
right.
Nunn is officially starting, by the way, guys.
All right, there you go.
Awesome. But I think that we do a move needs to be made. You know what I mean? Especially if we lose these 2 games to the Knicks. That's first of all, that's just really embarrassing, losing 2 games in a row to the Knicks. But second of all, we don't have, like you said, we don't have the help coming. So if Jimmy and Bam, the leaders on this team, don't take the step offensively, we shouldn't be 25th in the league as far as points per game. We need these 2 guys to lead the offense, to start heading the charge. I like what Brady said about the free throws. Getting to the free throw line is really important for this team. It allows us to reset our sets defensively, reset everything offensively, go from there. I think we should try to see if a move, maybe an Oladipo or something like that, that might help this team just raise the ceiling that we have right now. But also, you just don't want to overrush and then sell off for a player that's not worth what you're selling for.
Or not going to be here next year, potentially.
Exactly.
There was something thrown out there on Twitter. We'll kind of end here, and then we'll get to the picks. And I want to mention something about prize picks. But, Greg, there was something mentioned on Twitter. I don't know who reported this, if it's a legitimate report or not. But that you could look at maybe moving Nunn to Houston in a deal for Tucker. That essentially, I mean, would that? I don't know if it'd be attractive to Houston. I don't know. Maybe Nunn could be protection in case Oladipo leaves, right? Like
maybe, yeah.
You get a guard. Is that something you would look at?
I think so. I think it is highly dependent on like what happens in these next few games, and if they start to turn the thing around, I don't think that they would make a move like PJ Tucker. I don't think he's going to cost as much as people think, I guess is where I'm going with this, is that I think that they should wait out a PJ Tucker like move. And, potentially you could even package him with Oladipo, or maybe you could get Boogie in that deal. The Heat have been interested in him in the past. So I just don't know that like a straight up none for PJ Tucker and a salary filler is the type of move right now, because you kind of need Kendrick Nunn to do what he does, and that's score. So right now, that's not my move.
We're also going to see Max Strus minutes tonight for sure, because they're a little shorthanded, so he'll get an opportunity. It's funny you mentioned Boogie, Greg, because that one is still, I don't really understand why they didn't look harder at that. We talked about it in the offseason. I mean, if you had a good projection on his health, then he would have provided a lot of what they needed. Maybe not as a rim protector, but certainly as an inside presence and a scorer. All right, let's get right to it. First thing before we do, sign up for Prize Picks today. If you're watching this, sign up, prizepicks.com. Use the code 5. It's Super Bowl Sunday. They've got a million different combinations that you can play. You can even pair them with Heat players if you get in time here. So use the code 5. It's prizepicks.com. And also, the other one we're promoting, check it out on our YouTube channel, is bestever.com. They do simulations. They're going to start doing NBA simulations. So one team from one era against another team, or you can maybe put Oladipo on the Heat right now and see how they would play with Oladipo instead of Hero, all that kind of stuff that you can do. So it's bstebr.com. David Fernandez and I just did an explainer video. By the way, they have Tampa winning today 55% of the time. So I don't know if that'll play into where you bet at my bookie or Prize Picks or any of our other stuff. All right, let's get to the picks today. Jonathan, Heat, Knicks.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Heat. I think it's going to be a grinded out game. Knicks are pretty good defensively, but I think that Miami is going to come out with a little bit of a sense of urgency, especially after getting a win, trying to string some of these wins together, get themselves back into the playoff spot, and I think we'll get our grinded out win today.
Brady?
Yeah, I think Heat win. I think it's a Bam game because I think he's going to have a lot of open jumpers with the way they protect the rim. So I think Bam's going to get it going with the jumper, and the Heat will win.
Greg?
You don't want my picks, so let's just go straight to Prize Picks. I would take the over on Tom Brady. I will take the under on Tyler Hero. And I will remember Bradley Beal had a really bad game last game. A great player like him is going to come back crazy. Take the over on Bradley Beal against Charlotte. There's your picks.
Throw them all together. Prizepicks.com. Use the code 5. I will say this. I've got a terrible feeling about today's Heat game. Just a bad feeling. It's a 1:00 game on a Super Bowl Sunday. I don't know. I got a bad feeling about it. But right. Thank you, our producer, Manny Chang. But I will say this. I think Jimmy's got a little something saved for Tibbs. He usually does. So that's the only reason I'm picking the Heat today. But I think this is going to be a mortal struggle today. I don't think it's going to be fun. Everybody's expecting them to just build on what they did the other night. Washington was here in Miami for 3 days. They're terrible. The Knicks really are not terrible this year. I think this is going to be competitive. I think the Heat are 5.5-point favorites. And my bookie.ag, I might take the Knicks, but take the Heat on the money line. All right, we'll be back after the game. Greg and I will be potting. Royal will be back on the post game, and they'll take you right up into Super Bowl. Got an extra yard special Super Bowl preview coming up here at 1:00. It'll be on the YouTube feed all day, so check Kai and Lewis and the rest of those guys. For Jonathan, Brady, Greg, me, have a great Super Bowl Sunday, big game Sunday, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Let's just hope the Heat win, damn it.